Rowan, and your one bobblehead. Uh, we're gonna call this the Storm Coffee Table again because it's two of us. Um, until who knows who we'll get on. We'll get Shanae Ogumake to come on. We'll get a famous guest. Shanae, please.
It also feels nice, like Seattle, we like our coffee, so a coffee table. It
There you go.
works. It works.
Just hope the Storm don't take that for like one of their Starbucks branded coffee. Welcome back to the Storm Coffee Table. Rowan is, I would say settled, but that feels generous.
And that's why I'm in the corner. So, with
Rowan
my
has
one bobblehead.
Rowan is in a building. We can go with that. You are a lot going on. Poor Rowan. I remember Rowan was like, "I have this long drive. I have to go." Um, so no, it's unfortunately, buddy. While you've been away, things haven't gotten. There's the thing. Rowan left, and they started sucking. There you go. You got to come
That's
back.
that's what it
I'm
was.
sorry.
That's
They're
my
gonna
reason
sign
to come
you to
back.
the $56,000 contract. Say, come on. We need to get some
It'll be,
rebounds.
it'll be more than I'm making now, so I'll take it.
You get rebounds?
I'm 5'3", so
Oh,
no. No. But I can be like a Tamika Johnson, she was like 5'3", I think. So I don't know if they need that right now, but no, I cannot rebound. So apologies
we're
in
gonna
advance.
look at the losing streak for Seattle as they're on a six-game skid that's taken them under 500. Yeah, they're 16 and 17 right now, eighth in the league, so they sit at the last playoff spot. If the playoffs would have ended today, they would face off against the Minnesota Lynx. How lovely. Um, and fifth in the Western Conference. Yes, fifth in the Western Conference. They've been leapfrogged by a few teams. Golden State, Las Vegas. Las Vegas is on a heater. Um, oh yes, they won five. Sorry, I was looking at the team that shall not be named. Um, Jesus. Yeah, look at that. What realistically could happen? I say, ooh, bippity boppity, go back in time and sign like actual players that can rebound to help, your stars and maybe construct the roster a little bit better. Don't sign Lexi Brown, go back in time and fix that. We can't do that. So look at realistically what needs to happen. Um, and then kind of an outlook on the future, which kind of is where I'm at. I just kind of want it's unfortunate, but I'm like, hey, you know, I don't think it's gonna happen this year. I don't think you're adding a fifth title to your one banner that you get at Climate Pledge Arena for some reason. Um yeah, bro. The point is, and I don't want to feed into the copium, they're all close. They're all close defeats, what makes it even more frustrating, right? Um And even so what? They haven't won since the trade deadline, if I remember correctly. Um, they haven't won in the month of August. WNBA trade deadline. I don't remember. August
It was
7th.
August 7th, yeah.
The losing streak started before then. It started on August 1st, against the Sparks in that double overtime loss here. They lost all three games of a three-game homestand, lost to the Sparks in double overtime. Uh, lost by four to the Fever, uh, 70 and 74. Lost to the Lynx by four, lost to Vegas on the road, lost to the Sparks again by three on the road, and then just lost to Atlanta in the first of consecutive games they'll play against Atlanta at home because tomorrow's game today, by the time you're seeing this, against the Dream is in Vancouver at Rogers Arena. So Canada can see how poorly the Storm are playing. Um, and then they come back on Sunday for Sue's statue unveiling against Phoenix, and a Phoenix team that is sitting currently at fourth in the league. It's super hot in their last four. They're 4-6 in their last four. Um, it's tough. I mean, you go down the list. Uh, point loss, 4 point loss, 4 point loss, 4 point loss, 3 point loss, 10. In that last one against Atlanta. It it's tough. It's not a good situation. because you can't really do anything. I mean, they've got the $56,000 in cap space, like you and I have talked about, and it is available. We'll look at that in a little bit when we go to the what you'd need to do, kind of thing. Yeah, $56,302 available according to the Per Hoop Stats WNBA salary cap database that they tell me to cite in my work. I'm doing that. I'm a good little boy. Um, you got a lot of talent. You've got four All Stars, with Brittany Sykes, in addition to Gabby, Skylar, and NECA, and Erica Wheeler, who is in the skills competition, if we're counting that. And who has had a great year. Not to disparage that. You've got a perennial deep defensive player of the year candidate, Ezzy. Tiffany Mitchell's not a bad depth bench presence. You've got Erica on the bench now, so you've got her Dom Malonga has put together some great games, not so much against Atlanta. Some great games recently. Uh, and then it's kind of the rest of the bench. Lexi Brown, who that just has ended up not being great. They don't play Mackenzie Holmes. Mackenzie gets to be the greatest bench supporter. Um, yeah, and that's it. That's the bench because Kate Lou Samuelson's out for the year. Rowan, I know a lot has happened for you in recent memory, but just what have you seen from what you're aware of, what you know, over this losing streak? Because it's brutal. It is coming at a tough part of the year. These are games, obviously they all count, but there are so many factors that make this very difficult. Just from your vantage point, what have you seen from Seattle's current skid?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to kind of choose one thing that is the problem. I mean, when you have a roster, like you said, there are four current all-stars, but in addition to that, you have multiple players. You have Ezzy Magbegor, who also was an all-star, who has been an all-star in her career. You have a really, really talented roster. And I mean, I think looking at the box scores and just kind of, thinking about the games, it feels like there's just this inconsistency, right? Against Atlanta, you have Nneka Ogwumike with 29 points, I believe. And then, only one other person in double figures in Gabby Williams with 11 points. And just the disparity there is just so large. And against LA, it's the same thing. You have Brittany Sykes at 27 points. And then, I guess you get some more contributions from, Dominique Malonga with the 20 points. And I believe that was the 12 rebound game yeah, or 11 rebounds. So, it just, it's just hard to say one thing or another. I think one thing that just is standing out to me, which we've talked about in previous seasons as well, is just the kind of inconsistency in usage of people, and how it'll go from, really high to really low. Just a couple weeks ago, you had Tiffany Mitchell, in the starting spot, for a game. And then now she's played, how many minutes over the past few games? I had it pulled up, and now you have her playing 9 minutes against Atlanta, six against LA, and three against Vegas. And it's just, I think it's difficult to create some consistency there when there's so much, change in usage. She was she was having a lot of 20-minute games, before this little slide. So I just think it's interesting. I think the same with Dominique Malonga. She's obviously done really well. I actually wrote down the stats here. She averaged 4.5 points per game and 2.5 rebounds per game in the first 20 games and has now upped that to 9.5 points per game and 6.6 rebounds per game in the last 12. So that, has obviously been exciting to see. There's not a lot to be excited about when it comes to what's been happening in the second half of the season. Um, and yeah, I mean, seeing that they're now an under 500 team after, I remember just kind of reflecting on the, first half of the season before All-Star break and being like, they're in a good position. Yeah, I believe that they were, I want to say, I should go back and look at my notes. I believe that they were fourth, standing at fourth or fifth before the All-Star break. And, to see them sliding to 8 where they could potentially be out of playoff contention. That, when our former Storm Roundtable member Christian tweeted, that they were out of playoff contention, or that they were getting close to it. I mean, it's really crazy when you look at a roster on paper, where you just traded away someone in Alicia Clark who wasn't doing all that much, and you bring in an all-star prolific scorer, and yet, yes, it's only been 2 games, but you're still struggling. You have so many pieces. So, I know there's been a lot of chatter online about the reasoning around this, and I think you can't not mention the fact that the closeness of all these games, we talked about this last season too. There were a lot of times when there were some close games that were poorly handled at the end on a play calling, coaching side. And so I don't think that, we can talk about this without talking about that. And, I think that you have to talk about the coaching staff and the way that things are going at this point. There was, some new reporting about Alicia Clark requesting the trade out of Seattle, which was not a surprise to us, but I mean, it's worth talking about. I think we talk a lot about the things going on the court. And a lot of fans don't really know what's going on off the court if they're only, just watching the games. But it feels like there's some things that are kind of some off-court things maybe that are starting to bleed into on-court things, or at least something's just not clicking. And when you have a roster of this caliber, and it's the second year that you have these, two main leading players with, in Skylar Diggins and Nneka Ogwumike, and then you bring back Ezi Magbegor and Gabby Williams, and you have this core, there's really no excuse for why it's not gelling at this point. And maybe they weren't going to win a championship, but being almost out of playoff contention is definitely a problem.
It's shocking. I mean, you've for a good Skylar's in a little bit of a rut, and performance-wise, I'm totally fine giving her that grace because of how much she was playing and how high the use. Like I remember, early season,
That's a good
excuse me,
point. Yes.
so much of the talk about sorry, goddamn. So much of the topic of discussion and what I was looking at, I was like, hey, these are great games she's playing. I'm worried about the usage rate because she's great. Like it's like she was having a second wind late into her career. But I'm like, this isn't sustainable. You want to be careful with that. During the losing streak here, the current losing streak, her stats have kind of gone down, with the exception of the LA game. 18 points in the double overtime game, 7 of 20 though. 6 assists. Against Indiana, 13 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists. Okay, all around pretty good. Minnesota, not so great. 11 points, 7 assists though, 5 of 14. The shooting just hasn't really been there. It's only been over 40% once during the Jesus. Once during the 6 game losing streak. She didn't shoot the ball at all. Nope, I lied to you. He didn't make a shot at all in Vegas. 0 for 3.
Oh, for three.
6 assists. And 17 points against the Sparks, 7 for 18, 17 points. And then this Atlanta game, 7 points, 4 assists, 3 for 9 from the field. Um, it's tough. It's really tough. And we haven't seen it, knock on wood, with NECA, but I'm wondering if this is the amount of minutes she played, the mismanagement of the bench, as you playing time. Obviously, usually when we're talking about that, it's with the bench. Obviously, they can relate, but I'm like, you should have done a better job with your starting point guard. You already her a weird amount off the ball anyway. Like I don't understand. This is one of the like greater point guards of the generation. Why are we playing her off the ball? Don't get it. Um, I'm wondering if there's something to maybe like physical, dealing with, whatever it may be. That's not. founded. We've got ideas. Um, but it's difficult. I mean, it's the longest season in the WNBA history. He's been relied on a ton. We always talk, we hear Noe talk about it, head of the snake, da 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 da, da, as the point guard. Um, you know, so I wonder if maybe that's catching up to Skylar. But it's you talk about inconsistency to get back to the main part of the losing streak. They've found ways to lose, and they've found different ways to lose these games. There's a lot of them. They're still losing the rebounding battle, but there are instances they've actually won it. They won the rebounding battle against Indiana, against Vegas by a good margin. Um, they not against
Yet
Atlanta.
they're still second to last in
Yep.
rebounding in the
So that's
league behind
been
Connecticut.
really ugly. What's I've noticed lately, because I love looking at my little like miscellaneous, is points in the paint. They've struggled in the paint. 60 points against the Sparks in that two overtime game, 52 to Indiana of all teams. Um, they beat the Lynx, funny enough. They lose it to Vegas. They lose it to the Sparks again. They won against Atlanta, but it goes to the point, and I want to talk to this point um, about Ezzy. I'm sick and tired of the disrespect to Ezzy Magbagor because again, we have no idea, Rowan, what she was physically dealing with injury. I don't know if we'll know until Egg's interviews. What was it 2 years ago with Jewel? It was, oh yeah, I got to get my shoulder fixed. Like, Jordan mentioned her shoulder the 23 off season into the 24 season and a few other ailments that we knew about the shoulder, but we didn't. There was a few other things, right? Like there's stuff that these players aren't going to reveal, and maybe there is something bothering Skylar, and we won't know until exit interviews. It's just very difficult with Ezzy Magbagor, and I asked Coach Quinn this pregame. I said, "Hey," because it bothered me, because there's one aggregator account in specific. Their Storm writer seems to think the simple solution here is just take Dominique Malonga and play her at center in place of Ezzy Magbagor. And we saw why, obviously we're taking a clutch situation, but that heightens the importance of why, like, it heightens the situation. If that was how it's going to go, again, all respect to De'Erica Hamby. If and, she played pretty solid defense against some of the other players. But if you're putting her next to Neka Gumake in the paint, which I'll love to Neka, she's carried your offensive scoring lately. She's not the best interior defender. Feel like we all know that. You put those two together, the points in the paint against go way more up. Like it's just tough with Ezzy because you and I know the person that Ezzy is, right? We've both covered her for several years now. Excuse me. Interacted with her off the court, so on and so forth. So it's tough. We kind of want to know what's wrong so we can say, okay, well, obviously she's maybe not playing to her height because she's dealing with da 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 da. Um, excuse me. But some of these games, the way that Seattle's playing, they don't lend to help Ezzy. I mean, we know the defensive, caliber that she brings, how much of a rim protector she is. It was that road Sparks game, the 94-91 game, where I think what their last play of the game for Los Angeles was get the ball into the paint. Um, pull up the play by play. Yeah, with the Erica. Yep, the Erica Hamby. Their last two buckets actually were the Erica Hamby. Um, gets the and one on Dominique Malonga to win it, and then there's the turnover that Seattle doesn't even get a shot. Like you put Dom on an island against Erica Hamby. Again, all respect to Erica Hamby, but if that's Asia, Fee, Stewie, John Cole Jones, fucking Emma Meeson's back. God damn it. You should, like put any of the great post players against Dom. And again, it's not her fault. I said this to Rowan before we began recording. It's not her fault that she's not the sort of rim protector that Ezzy is. Ezzy is a perennial defensive player of the year candidate. She's had several years in this league now. Um, I'm not saying she needs to be that right now. I'm saying don't put her in a position to fail by just having her be your center. I don't know why, and it's been avoided in press conferences. They're not. You wouldn't have maybe Dom at the four, Leidneck to the three, because I mean her scoring is there. Again, she dominated. Well, she carried the load. Let's say not dominated because they didn't, you know, lead a lot. The scoring in this Atlanta game. In most, if you look at like I like looking at the ESPN schedule because you can see all the points, rebounds, and assist leaders. You look at the points, it's largely NECA since July 16th against Golden State here. The last time that you and I were at the post game in person. I'll just read you this, okay? Since Golden State points leader, Agumake. Dallas at home loss, Agumake. Chicago, Diggins. Washington, Agumake. Connecticut, Agumake. Los Angeles, Agumake. Indiana, Agumake. You get what I'm saying? Like she's shouldering your load. Um, you have to keep you're not benching Mecca. Move her over. I know this one fan in specific will not like this. You move Gabby back to the two because you're not benching Gabby. You can bring Brittany off the bench. You've got two elite, not elite, but two really good guards to bring off the bench, and Brittany Sykes and Erica Wheeler. But we know guard's not the issue with this team. Um, you'd run a what? Run a five of Skylar, Gabby, NECA, Dom, and Ezzy. That fixes your Dom like minutes thing because she's been playing really great. Jeff, WNBA Storm Chaser, put out a thing before the Atlanta game that in the month of August, in less than 23 minutes, she's averaging like I'll get it here. It was like a double double, I think. Um, but I'm like, well, if she's doing that in less than 23 minutes, obviously naturally you'd go, well, she should have more. Yeah, she's averaging 14.4 points per game and 7.8 rebounds per game in the month of August. During that time, she's playing less than 23 minutes per game, is what Jeff tweeted. So, do you like, as I've mentioned, and I'll shut up here so Ro can actually speak. I know people are here for Rowan. Um, Noelle Quinn's been asked about it in post games before and in pre games before. Hey, why haven't we seen this? We saw it in camp, Rowan.
That's the only thing I was gonna say. I was gonna say we have talked about this for months. We talked about this. When was that? April? Like
It was like
we,
Dom's first one. We were like, hey,
yeah,
look
like
at
they're
this
doing
lineup.
it. And I
I'm pretty
remember
sure I have
someone
a video.
actually asked her, they were like, we saw this lineup out,
Mhm.
practicing on training camp. Like, are you going to use it? And she was like, oh, it was my first time doing it. I mean, here we are, however many months later, and it's like, we're still asking for it.
There was a presser during this losing streak where she was basically asked, hey, why don't you want to, not why don't you want to, but have you considered the thought? But someone asked a two-part question and there was a second one, and she goes, I'll answer the second one. And I'm like, fuck. I know it's our job to ask it, but I'm like, at a certain point with our job, unfortunately, we can ask things, we will get that answer where we don't get an answer. There are a lot of times I think you and I both through our careers, we'll ask something and we're like, well, that did nothing for me. Uh, you know,
That was
so
not the answer I not was looking for. That just didn't answer my question at all.
yes, at all. And I'm like, well, you just gave me a bunch of coach speak. There's a lot of things that folks don't understand about our job, like saying you have to reveal sources. Not a thing. I will not continue that, by the way. Um, yeah, I don't. It's interesting twofold, and I'll try to get your thoughts on it here because I'm saying don't play Dom as your primary center, but also given her length and given how she has shown some decent play against some like early in the season against Fee, I thought she had some good possessions. I thought she one of my big takeaways, and because it was a loss, I didn't think would be super great to point out. Dom isn't afraid of anybody. Like she's not
I mean, another
showing
thing,
any.
I remember saying that after the Phoenix game, their what was that their first regular season game against Phoenix? I just like vividly remember Alyssa Thomas coming into the paint and Dom's just like, like
Take me,
just take
gosh.
me. Yeah, exactly. And I was like, I remember just being, really impressed. I mean, this is, she's still what, 19? She's like this 19-year-old kid coming into a new country, new league, and she's like, yeah, I'll take Alyssa Thomas. Like, and on the bright side of all of this, like I'm really glad that it doesn't seem like that confidence has been, deterred at all. Now 33 games into the season, a lot happens. She could have, kind of lost that confidence, but she hasn't. And that's really, I mean, she's just continued to get better, and that's really cool to see.
Yeah, and so that's why I'm like, hey, with her length, you're able to disturb shots, you're able to disturb attempts, and you're not afraid of anybody. But like, so that's why I'm like, hey, if you put those two, Ezzy McGregor and Damalanga in the paint, it's a lot of length, it's a lot of size, not like size, but you know what I mean. So I don't know. And again, it pushes NECA to be more on the perimeter per se, which and she can move. She's very agile. She's a very like athletic forward. So I'm sure she can handle that a lot better than her interior defense. So I don't know. I guess that kind of bleeds into like what I would change. You know what I mean? But yeah, and that was the whole point was like they are finding different ways to lose. They're not dominating each stat every game. They're very close. They're not completely dog water. They're not completely asketball. As some people are saying, they're playing asketball. Uh, it's just the inconsistencies are there. That is a real thing. I know NECA talked about a few weeks ago trying to find identity, and I'm like, we're doing that now.
Yet another thing. It's so funny because didn't we bring that up months ago? Right? Like these
It was
things
one of the
just,
first things we're about to talk about in training camp. I'm like,
yeah.
I don't know about letting you decide it.
Hmm.
Like, like I think you would want to establish that thing. And you'd think with the roster construction, you'd do that. Like there are things that they naturally default to doing. They are a run through the paint team. They're not Atlanta. They're not gonna shoot. It was funny watching the shot chart. I always pulled the WNBA shot charts up, and I'm like, "Ye- I I know. I've followed Atlanta a little bit. I've like heard the rumblings of Smesko, the teachings of Carl Smesko, getting Brittany Griner to shoot threes as much as she is now. I didn't realize it, I guess, until it hit me in the face. I was like, wow, dude. Like they are living on the perimeter. And I honestly felt good in the first quarter about it because I'm like, hey, you've got Gabby Williams, Skylar Diggins, Brittany Sykes, Erica Wheeler, Skylar, sorry, I almost said Skylar Diggins twice. Neka Gumake, like you can defend the perimeter, or you could be able to. Yeah, it's interesting looking at the disparity. There's like nothing in the mid range for Atlanta. There's two shots, maybe four if you include these ones right at the free throw line in the mid range. That's disgusting. Oh, that's gross basketball. Um, I don't know. They're finding ways to lose. And sorry, I'm talking a lot. You talked about the late game execution, the Mystics game at home, if you remember that one. It felt like the Mystics were trying to hand the game to the Storm. Like the Storm would fail at their possession or they would, turn the ball over, in the final few minutes trying to get, tie it or go ahead. Washington would get it and then turn the ball over. They would here. Here's another opportunity. I felt that way about the Minnesota loss here. It felt like Minnesota, even with Dejanay Carrington, because I think that was her first game with the Lynx since being traded there, like, or one of the first few. I could be wrong. Um, that they were late game, they were giving it up to them. You want to talk about late game, you've got some of the better players, and I don't put this on the players. I don't put the late game stuff on the players per se. You talked about execution of the staff. What are we drawing up? Stuff obviously not super on this one, but that Sparks game in LA recently to not even to like have it turned over before not give anybody an attempt. That's not good. Um, and I wonder how much of the late game execution, failing to execute late is players are tired. The players that you have are tired. They're at that point, you can be as smart as you are physically, mentally, you can have high basketball IQ, like so many of these players do, Gabby, Skylar, NECA, whatever. But if your body is doing one thing when your brain does the other, it's different. So I don't know. God, I'm throwing a lot at you. I've been talking a lot. I guess it's just it's frustrating.
Yeah, no, I mean I did the same thing when you're like, what's going on? I'm like eh, just trying to go through all the things, trying to think about what it could possibly be. Because that's the thing, like when you mentioned the basketball and I think that the thing that is particularly frustrating is that, right, they're not terrible. They're not horrible, but then it puts these things on, on blast a little bit more, right? Like you have, I need to go look through this again. Like, so you have wins against Minnesota, you have wins against New York, you have, these strong two
Phoenix.
wins against New York. Like,
Yeah.
you have these things that, have proven that there is a possibility here. And I think that that's the part that just makes this even more frustrating. If you're a team, no offense to them, like Connecticut, you're like, cool. Or Chicago. Let's look at Chicago right
Yeah.
now. I think that they're, oh my God, are they on like a nine? They're on a 3-game lose streak. They're, like it's just rough. Anyway,
Yeah.
when you look at a team like that, it's kind of like, okay, we're gonna set our sights for the future, whatever. And I think that why this season is just feeling so just particularly horrible for the Storm is that, this was supposed to be the big season, right? You had last year, like I said, you can make the excuse of, oh, Skylar's new, NECA's new, we're all learning how to gel together. You've returned, like I said, you've returned 4 people. It's kind of like this is, the CBA is coming up next year. Again, we talk about how old the roster is. This was kind of the chance to do it before the whole league gets all scrambled up. And I think that that is why there's just a particular pressure on this team. And that has been, it's just they're not performing in the way that people thought they would. And to the credit of other teams in the league, I think a lot of teams, it's looked very different than I think a lot of people predicted. You have, the Valkyries above the Storm. I don't think if you said that 6 months ago, no one would have believed you. So, obviously credit to those teams, but um yeah, I think that that's the part that is so jarring is that you have this talent, have this unit that have been together that should know each other when there are so many teams, you look at Phoenix, you look at, Indiana, and everyone is, I mean, you look at Atlanta, you have new coaches, you have new people. And so to see a team that has the same core, the same, coach, there's just a higher expectation. And I think that, I remember, I asked you like, "Oh, what are we going to talk about on the coffee table today?" And you're like, "Oh, what could be changed?" And I'm like, it's just so hard to say. And I just think that as we continue talking about these things, we just keep mentioning I mean, if we want to open the can of worms, we just keep mentioning coaching things. We
Yeah.
mention, we
Yeah.
mention these questions that we and, the other, journalists, that cover the team, like what we were asking day one of training camp that are now being brought up again. We're talking about, you can literally go back and hear us talking about this last year, 2 years ago of, end game execution
Yeah.
and, and those are the things that put, coaching on blast. Like those are the things that really highlight, coaching is when there is a play that needs to be called. And yeah, I mean, I think another thing to add in this, I know we were going to touch on it a little bit, but we haven't talked, the two of us, about the Brittany Sykes Alicia Clark trade and Isaiah Cook in there as well. And I just, we look at that extra cap space of $56,000 and that's enough to sign, someone. I mean, Tiffany Mitchell is on a what, 42, $1,000 contract. You have enough to sign a a veteran minimum. And I was going to say my answer to what could they do realistically was, oh, sign someone else. But when you look at it, these signings that they've had have not been the smartest things, and they haven't really worked out. I mean, of course, Brittany Sykes is going to work out. She's an all-star, this trade. I definitely think that between her and the way that Alicia Clark was playing in Seattle, I think it has to be a benefit. I don't, obviously Brittany has already contributed more total. I actually want to do I want to run the numbers on this, but it feels like she's already contributed more points in the past two games that Alicia contributed.
I wouldn't doubt it.
I
She had
mean,
the
it's
27 pointer.
yeah, and then an 11, right? So, or no, what did she
I
have?
think she had 220. What was it? Dick Fane, um,
14.
on the broadcast, after her 27 pointer was like, no, I think before this, most recent game was like, oh, she's already scored 41 points or something in her first two games. And I was like, hey, pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, I will,
It's got
when
to
you're
be more
talking
than
next, I
Alicia.
will be sitting here adding these up. But anyway, I mean, so obviously, like, it would have to be really, really bad if this trade did not work out
Oh, yeah.
offensively, in the Storm's favor. And, trading someone who barely did anything offensively for the team for an all-star, it has to work out. But, in with that, it's just we know that Noe likes to sign people who are who have been in the system. So I definitely think that that's kind of part of maybe why they haven't signed anyone yet. I mean, again, it's late in the season. It's, like you're at the point where you're going to be thrown in to a system. You don't have enough money, to pay a big name person. We were talking off air about who we thought, they should sign. And the only person I could think of that was a big, we were talking like, we talk about Ezzy and Dom and NECA just not being, they're like what did you say? You said forward posts, right? Like,
Yeah.
which
You need
you
more
look at.
rebounds.
Exactly. And you look at that and that works out very well for them. But in the, you need that big. And so we were talking about Tierra McCowan. Um, she was paid, what did we say? 190, was she paid
Her hoop
195
stats had her at 201. Dead, yeah,
in
her hoop
Dallas,
stats had
right?
her. Yeah.
Yeah. So obviously the Storm can't afford to be
You,
matching that. But I mean, we were trying to figure out if we could find a list of some more available people, but I
yeah.
definitely think that some post presence would be nice. I can't really think of anyone else big who has been waived recently other than Tierra, but anyways, I mean, I just I feel like there's just no more movement to be done. I feel like when you have the roster that you have, and especially now that you have, the bench production in Dominique Malonga, like you're getting some of these pieces. There's really no excuse for why it should be happening this way. And I really, unless, I mean, the rebounding would definitely be helpful. I think, again, for a team with a roster of this caliber, being second to last in the league in rebounds is not good. Um, so the only thing I can think of is if you were to sign someone, I think it has to be a post, has to be a center. Um, TBD on who I would recommend for that. But I mean, if Tierra McCowan wants to make $56,000, you know? Um, so I don't know. I feel like there was something else that you said that I was gonna
Well, I'm
address
gonna
as
lay
well.
out my feelings here. I think there's no one thing obviously you can point at and be like, that's the problem. The roster construction from general
That's what
manager
I was gonna
Lisa
say.
Ray, assistant general manager Pokey Chapman, whatever input that Noel has failed. You failed on Lexi Brown. That trade, you've got her on under contract for another year too. So if you want her around next year, whatever the fuck happens next year, and we'll talk about the future in a minute. You failed on that. You talked. We had so many comments with the media. Us, that's us. about Zaya Cook and why you believed in Zaya Cook. You didn't play her that often. She showed some good things, but you didn't play her that often. I'm like, well, if you believe in her, then play her. You didn't
Hmm.
do that. Um, it's obviously tough to lose Jordan Horston. That's been said consistently throughout the course of the year. It's tough that you don't have Katie Lou Samuelson even throughout the course of the year. We've said that as well. Um, we talked about it a lot when we knew about the injury. Um, even if I don't think, because some people label Katie Lou as a shooter, a sharpshooter or whatever. Like, really? Still would have helped you forward depth wise. Even you've got again the burn roster spot. Um, you've kind of handheld Dominique Malonga a little bit too much. I had conversations with people about how it's her conditioning, and sure, excuse me. I just think you get better if you play live reps and game reps because you can only get so much better playing the same opponents in practice.
I mean, yet another thing that we talked about at the beginning of the season when we talked about, the usage of the
Yep.
starters and how we would get to a
Yep.
point in the season where you couldn't keep that up anymore. You couldn't keep up how often the starters were playing. And now we're seeing that, again, on the bright side, Dominique's rising to the challenge. She's rising to the
Yeah.
challenge. We see that when minutes go down for other people, she is using, I mean, that's the only other thing really I had in my notes is that, when you're looking at it, she is using her minutes to the fullest.
Oh
She,
yeah.
when she is
Very
given
efficient.
those minutes, yeah, she has been extremely efficient. And so, I that from the way that we know that most people usually get better, which is in-game reps. I'm honest, I'm surprised by, or not surprised by how well she's doing with her heavy minutes, but I guess I should say that they kind of got lucky with that because that's not, often how, like, I remember last season when Nika Mule would come in at the end and people would be upset because she was missing shots or whatever. And it would just kind of be like, well, if she never gets the in-game reps, like what are and again, thankfully there were no injuries that forced her to, have to step up in a way that we've seen, with some rookies before. But, you just when you get to this point in the season, you're lucky if these people that you haven't really played all that much can actually deliver when the time comes.
Yeah. No, I mean, there are just situations, yeah, where it definitely could have fit in pockets for these players. It's a failure all around. It's a failure on the front office for the construction of the roster. I mean, again, you've got great players. You've got, as I've said through the course of the year, your top three, top four, now top five with Brittany Sykes beat anybody in the league, and they have. It's obviously the supporting cast, and that was my big thing. I said that on Fox 13's On the Sideline podcast. I said the supporting cast, what are you going to get from that? Um, any thought that Dominique Malonga was the wrong pick there at two? I think it's stupid. It has been stupid. And I feel like that's been
Agreed.
quieted. They're like, oh, you should have picked if you were going to be more, championship ready, whatever. I'm like, if they probably used her better, then I don't think, Anyway,
I'm trying now to find the Brittany Sykes versus Alicia Clark
oh
total
no, you're
points
good.
because I'm just very
I'm
interested.
like, that's my whole thing is that there's failure all to go around here. It's no one aspect of this organization's fault, uh, alone, right? Like front office failed you with how you constructed the roster. Again, the Lexi Brown trade, that's a failure. You're paying her 96,000. Um, you know, Alicia Clark bringing her back on that deal and the expectation not coming through of relying on the oldest player in the league to contribute that much. Mm. Um, the coaching staff not handling minutes properly. Maybe not putting these players in the best position to succeed. We're in try shit now. time, and they're trying shit. Again, why we haven't seen the Mecha Dom Ezzy lineup. You've lost six in a row. This
Yeah.
is the most critical time of the season. What? Try it.
Because you can turn
You
it
have our number.
around. I mean, in the same way that it turned around so quickly because it, went downhill, it can also turn uphill.
It could be, yeah.
And that's
And
what I'm
you'll
saying
play a
with
bunch
like,
of games that are like, you know, double wins in a way because there are
yeah,
teams ahead of you, right?
right. Yeah. I mean, that's what I'm saying with like, you might as well sign someone because you have that money, but at the same time, it's just like at this point, you just have to try something. You can try
Yeah.
signing someone, just try those new lineups because you do have some, or well, really at this point, you're under 500. You really have nothing to lose at this point if you're, yeah.
Yeah. No, you'll play again with teams ahead of you, right? You don't play the ass butt cheeks teams of the league too much. Like you play Atlanta ahead of you. You play Phoenix ahead of you, and in the West, Chicago, Dallas, the two butt cheek teams. Washington's also a butt cheek team. Indiana again, yes,
I mean,
ahead
you
of you.
say you say Washington's a butt cheek team, but then you look and right
Yeah,
now they're
this is
14
true.
and 18 and the Storm are 16 and 17. So,
Oh my God, that's
so
so bad.
you might have to
Yeah,
add that to that category.
yeah. No, I mean, again, it goes all around. The front office deserves blame for how they constructed the roster. The coaching staff deserves blame for how they've mismanaged the minutes for the course of the year. There is some bad luck. You got bad luck with Jordan Horston getting hurt.
Sure.
You got bad luck with Katie Lou and Nika getting hurt. Um, I don't put a lot of the blame on the players because I feel like they've been put in a bad position to
Yeah.
succeed, you
Yeah,
know?
for sure.
So I think a lot of this is at fault to the different power, not ownership, because ownership's given them training facility and, all this, da 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 da. And, it's, that's why you talk about the staff. Did you have anything else on like the losing streak and or the how to fix it? Because I'm ready to go into the future and be like, you need to clean house.
Yes, I'm just
Okay.
sad. So,
You're welcome.
now it's just, yeah, like, I mean, thank you everyone for listening to my rambling because I'm just like, I mean, I feel like we're both kind of talking it through, trying to figure out what is the problem here. So, I don't know. I
Yeah.
think you summed it up very well. So, no, I don't have anything else. Let's please move on.
Also, yeah, sorry. I was gonna say the expectation is also a problem here. Not like anyone created it, but it's a real
Mhm.
thing. Like during Skylar and NECA's intro presser, Skylar said, "I don't want this to be my last stop, like of her career." Like,
Yeah.
so you're one of the greater players of this generation is looking to retire soon. She hasn't
Mhm.
said it's going to be her last year. I don't think it's going to be her or NECA's last year. Um, but since it didn't work again, and they went pretty much all out as much as they
Mhm.
could, you know, they did trade the first round pick. You kind of had to attach the first round pick to that
Yeah.
trade. What is he doing? Um, to that deal,
Wondering.
um, for Brittany Sykes. That's a we like yes, there was a reporting from Kareem Copeland that Alicia wanted it, but you did get an all-star out of it. You did
Yeah.
get a 15 point per game player out of it in
I mean,
Brittany
there have also
Sykes.
been, I mean, it also seems like some of Britney's posts have alluded to the fact that she maybe requested a trade. Again, this is all just reading between the lines, but she
Okay.
mentioned something about kind of choosing things for herself and making decisions herself. So, that's interesting to think about as well. But
So yeah, I mean, this is, and again, there's nothing guaranteed next year outside of a few players under contract. So, there's a ton of pressure to win right
mhm,
now. I would say no one's looked immortal. Excuse me, Minnesota sits atop the league pretty God damn it, pretty comfortably. But they've lost to teams. They've obviously lost to the Storm. They could have lost to the Storm all three times they played. They didn't get blown out any of those times.
mhm,
They that one first game they played them initially on the road. only lost by 5, and that game was within reach. They beat Minnesota by 10 at home, and they were well in control of that game
Yeah.
throughout the course of the night. And then this most recent one, then we lost by 4, and they really should have had it because again, it felt like the Lynx kept saying, "Here, you can have it."
Take it.
Um, so they're 27-5. They're 6 losses up on Atlanta. Atlanta's the 2 seed. Jesus Christ. Um,
I
there's
mean, the
no
real,
clear dominant force, so it's not like you know.
I mean, it will be an interesting test to see what, oh, I was gonna say tomorrow, but actually for me, it's today. It's
Eh,
midnight now. Today's game against Atlanta. I mean, again, when we talk about just making adjustments and obviously that is on the players as well, but just game planning, making adjustments. These back-to-backs are always very interesting to see, which team, kind of makes those adjustments. So I'm interested to see what that'll look like and, what we'll see from the Storm that might look a little bit different than yesterday, two 2 days ago's game.
yeah, no, I mean it's always funny. It's like I remember when I was first on the beat, with these back-to-backs that they do, I was like, playoff game because like you get to see them back to back. She's heard that, I'm sure, for me like my first 2 years, and now I'm like, I know the answer. I'm not gonna ask it again.
Yeah, no.
Um, yeah, young me. So anyway, we'll go into the future. My point in saying that was again the expectation's tough. It's more stress. It's more mental weight on
Hmm.
you. Not only Skylar and NECA, but players like Gabby, like
Hmm.
Ezzy. Hey, we want to do this for our teammate. We want to help them. Maybe go out with a title. I don't know. Again, I don't imagine Skylar and NECA would be done after this year, but I don't know. Nothing's a certainty.
Right.
Um,
And
yeah. So
again,
the situation.
before everything gets shaken up, I think they were
Yes.
both like, this is our best opportunity to win a championship, do it together, and so even if they're not done, I still think there's a lot
Oh,
riding
for
on this
sure.
year regardless.
I mean, yeah, two now three with Brittany of the older players. Three older players. Wait, 1994. Thought she was older than that. Maybe not.
She's pretty psyched. She's
She's
31.
only 31. I'm stupid. Never mind. Don't listen to me.
I mean, the over 30,
Sure, she's been around a little bit. She
yeah,
used to give Jewel hell. I remember every time the Storm would play Brittany Sykes, it was like, all
yeah,
right, Jewel's
it's
gonna have a bang.
over. Yeah.
Um, it was interesting. Even right before the All-Star break, it was like Seattle was in a great winning position, and they had their 2 picks really high, 2 other picks, not their own, high in Vegas and Los Angeles on because they were losing. The situation's changed. I mean, they still have a top 5 pick. Um, excuse me, the Los Angeles Sparks pick. They traded their own pick to the Mystics in this Alicia Clark, Brittany Sykes, Saya Cook, rest in peace, deal. Not rest in peace, she got waived. Um, so they can't tank themselves because they don't own their pick. But they do own the Sparks' pick, which is nice. According to Tankathon here, yeah, that'd be the third overall pick. Their other pick in Vegas would be 11th, so not much help. Um, but yeah, you've got 4 players currently under contract according to the Her Hoop Stats WNBA salary cap database. And I say that every time because it says please cite this data as um in Lexi Brown, Dominique Malonga for her rookie contract, Jordan Horston, and Nika Mule. I don't know what that looks like, but I do think it should be as unfortunate as it is. Both you and I previously have enjoyed covering Noel Quinn. Like we've both had our personal experiences. Um, and it's tough because there is the weight of being what the lone black woman head coach in this league that's predominantly black woman led. Fascinating. That goes deeper, of course, but that is not our show to have. Um, but
Someday.
unfortunately, the time is up. And I don't think they make. I would be really shocked if they made that move before the season ends, for a
Agree.
multitude of reasons. One, uh, as you and I have talked about,
I think I know exactly what you're gonna say.
Skylar and NECA have talked exclusively, extensively,
Mhm.
whatever, about coming here to play with Noe. And again, it's not totally, I'm not saying Noe's a bad person. It just hasn't worked out. And it hasn't worked out. You could say they've underachieved since Sue's last season.
Mhm.
Obviously Vegas was a buzzsaw that year, sure. But you've got Brianna Stewart, you've got Jewel Lloyd, you've got Sue Bird, who's might not be her best player, still still serviceable. You had Tina Charles that year. Totally forgot the Tina Charles Storm era.
Throwback to
Uh,
that. Yes, I remember that with that email. I remember getting that email that they signed her. I was like, whoa, that,
Excuse me.
yeah.
Um, 2023, you throw out the window because we knew they were going to be bad. Stewie leaves you. It's just Jewel and a bunch of the happy friends, including Ezzy and Jordan. Um, Yvonne Turner.
Ah,
Uh,
Storm Legend.
God damn it. 2024, again, as you mentioned, new people, but still like with how the team was managed, you flare out in the first round, which isn't great. Um, excuse me, because of how you looked at times throughout the year. You looked great, right? This year, you've looked great at times. We're at a,
Hmm.
a similar sort of thing where you're struggling after the All-Star break, and it's even worse of a struggle this year. With I'd argue a better roster
Hmm.
than last year. And I don't think there's too much of an argument in that regard. Uh, I think it's time to go. It's time to
Yeah.
eat the whole staff as well because it's largely been the same except for what's his name? We don't really ever hear from him or see him.
No,
Mitch
Mitch?
Johnson,
Is that his name?
who replaced my Asian brother Perry Huang. No, Mitch Johnson's the Spurs head coach. Oops.
No. It is
Uh,
Mitch, yeah.
Pretty sure. Okay, sorry, I gotta click it. Mitch Thompson. I said
Okay,
Mitch
close enough.
Johnson.
Close
Close
enough.
enough. Um, you know, you got to clean house. That would include general manager Lisa Ray because she's been building these teams, and while she did, you could say, oh well, she brought in, you know, um, Tina Charles. There was the weight of Sue's last year, and
Hmm.
she knew that they were chasing a ring, which she
Hmm.
wanted to do. So
Yes.
no. Um, hey, give her credit. She landed Skylar and NECA. It's a big deal. You've been
Hmm.
able to retain Gabby for several years.
Hmm.
Sure. But outside of that, you've been able to land the big pieces. You haven't been able to add the finishing touches to a roster. Good GMs can do that.
Hmm.
You can find diamonds in the rough. You haven't really done that,
Yeah. I mean,
right?
I
How
think that,
many picks, you
right.
know?
Yeah. I mean, I was just gonna say, I think that there is, an aspect of that that has been, I think, alluded to by Jewel Lloyd of, that prioritizing of the new people coming in. I think we've heard, at least on podcast or something, or we can just kind of, infer a bit that, it feels like in prioritizing those big signings like NECA and Skylar, that people like Jewel, Mercedes, Mercedes Russell, Sammy Wickham, these people that were kind of part of the system, for a long time and had that loyalty seem to be a bit neglected. And so that's an interesting point. I also think, with both of the, with NECA and Skylar, they've made it very clear that they wanted to play together. And that's not to discredit
Yeah.
anything about the Storm, management, front office, any of that. But I think that it kind of felt like they were going to go wherever they could play together, unless it was, Chicago or any, like you
Yeah.
said, the training facility helps. There are a lot of different aspects, but I think, also you're right. They have said they wanted to play for Noe. They wanted to play, with a three black woman staff, in Ebony Hoffman and Koki Chapman. And those things are super important, which again, this is not our podcast, but you look around the
Yes.
league and it's like, you know, being able to have a coaching staff that's representative of your team and your roster is very important. And so, yeah, I think like you said, for both of us, it's sad to say that we feel like there needs to be a full cleaning of, of everything. Because, we, like most people, really want, I mean, specifically the Black women coaches to in the league to succeed. You've seen Tanisha Wright get fired, Teresa Witherspoon, the list goes on. And so it's really disappointing to see, someone who has been a part of the Storm in many different capacities as player, as a coach, who I think everyone was very excited when, she was promoted to head coach, but at a certain point, you've been given so many opportunities. I don't know how much I use this argument per se, but I have seen people say that if you look back, who knows, maybe something with her and the coaching staff could have had something to do with Brianna Stewart leaving. You have these pieces, these core pieces. I bring up Mercedes Russell. Yeah, she's no Sue Bird, she's no Jewel Lloyd, she's no Brianna Stewart, but thinking about, her leaving after spending, her entire career, from when she was drafted, except for when she was drafted, in Seattle, you just see these pieces leaving and the prioritizing of, people who haven't been there. And, at least we know with Jewel Lloyd, she's been very public about the fact that, she felt slighted last season and she did not have a good time. And so I don't know. I think it's a mixed bag of things, but if you're looking strictly from a game on court standpoint, you can't look at the rosters specifically in 2024 and 2025 and and not see that it's just something is not working. And um yeah, again, it's hard for us to see after, we've been around Noelle Quinn, we know her staff, we know
Yeah.
everything, but it just, yeah, just seems like it's not working right now.
At the end of the day, it is a results-driven business. Sports
Mhm.
is, right? And, we're going to use two different like sports like what's the word, cliches or whatever. It's a results-driven business, and great coaches do more with less. This staff has done less with more.
Yeah,
Again,
interesting.
like these are some of the greatest players of all time in Skylar Diggins and Nneka Gumake. If you go back to Sue's last year, Brianna Stewart, Jewel Lloyd, Tina Charles on that
Hmm.
team. Um, you fell short there. You've fallen short. You're in danger of, as we talked about, missing the playoffs with this roster
Yeah.
is incomprehensible.
Yeah.
That would
Yes.
be unfathomable to
Yes.
miss the playoffs.
And the
It
fact
would
that
be
they're
an
even close
all-time
is
crash and burn.
unfathomable. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
The fact that we're under 500 right now,
Yes.
sorry, I am not on the roster. I will not be backing out. I cannot get rebounds, even though when I play basketball, they
You
put me
are
at the
taller
four.
than me.
He said, "Big boy, go and get rebounds." I said, "Okay." I learned box out, and that's all I did.
Wow, that was a really great box up. That was
Yeah. Hey, I can
you should
suit
have
up.
a
I don't know how
CSS
quick I can get to
basketball
Vancouver.
game. Oh, yep.
Oh,
Head up
yeah,
there.
it would be my broken ass jump shot. I got my shoes are great. I need some new shoes.
I still have my shoes too,
I need some A1s. They're
Uh,
well made. They got great colorways.
they do.
Um, yeah, it'll be interesting to kind of keep the further question along the future. Sorry. Because yeah, I think you need to clean a house. What, 5 years and not close to a championship. Again, you've not made it to a conference final.
Yeah.
You haven't made it out of what, the second round?
Hmm.
Um, yeah, it's unacceptable. Again, doing less with more. You know, so you again, it was such a transformational free agency off season coming. There will be its challenges. I mean, there is the expansion draft that you'll have to deal with. But again, you've only got four players under contract right now. So I think you'll be safe.
Yeah. I
I
mean,
don't know
and
how
for
they're
the
gonna do
four,
that.
I was going to say, for the four, I'm going to say for the three that are on rookie contracts, I mean, you have that's it's not a bad three on rookie contracts to have. You have three different positions. It could be, I'm sure that there are some teams that are going to end up with, all these people on rookie contracts that are just guards or just posts, but you have some really good diversity in play styles between Nika, Jordan, and Dom. And so, I think we've talked about that, the future feels really bright. We have talked time and time again about how much this team misses Jordan Horston. And I think she and Dom will be really fun to watch together. So, regardless of what happens, having those three locked in, so to say. Um, it's a pretty good and with the draft coming up, and with the caliber of this draft,
Yep.
yeah,
Because I think I said it off camera, but with Tankathon, if you have the third overall pick, Tankathon has you mock drafting Olivia Miles.
which is
Um,
hilarious. But
yeah, you still end up getting again. We'll see how the season goes, but that would have you would the mock draft would have Lauren Betts going number one to Dallas. Azzy Fudd, Easy
easy.
going to Minnesota, which fuck off. Well,
I
who knows
can't
what
believe
they'll.
that.
Uh, Seattle would have the choice of Olivia Miles, Tania Latson, say that right?
Tanaya. Yeah, Tanaya.
Tania. Flau'jae Johnson, UCLA. She was at Utah.
Oh yeah,
Neekins?
Gianna
Neekins?
Neatkins. Yep.
Um, so you'd have your options there.
Yeah.
Uh, and then your second pick in the Vegas pick has you taking Sarah Williams out of UConn.
Yeah.
Oh, Cody McMahon. I know who Cody McMahon is. Reagan Beers. Oh, a lot of
Yes.
centers. So,
Reagan Beers. I'm in Reagan Beers' hometown right now. So fun.
I don't think you're gonna have any beers to celebrate that.
No.
Uh, um, yeah, I just think, it'll be interesting to see how the franchise pivots because
hmm
I do think they clean house.
Yeah.
Uh, and who knows? Maybe Skylar and NECA are happy with Seattle and the environment and the
hmm
training facility and the organization. But it does feel like with how much they've talked about wanting to, yes, play together, but also play, for coaches that look, well, again, is great.
hmm
Um, yeah, not our podcast to have. But again, it's a results driven business. They haven't gotten it done, and they've been here. If it was just the 1 year, like with what Teaspoon in Chicago,
Yeah.
and you get to with Angel and that group, uh,
Yeah. And,
you know
right.
that's a
One
different
year.
situation.
Yeah.
This is a staff that's been largely
Yes.
together. Change out Perry
Well,
Huang
yeah.
for Mitch Thompson.
Yes.
Um, so I don't know. I think this group looks a lot different next year, and that
hmm
includes the staff, that includes the front office.
hmm
Uh, my sort of rallying cry is you bring Ezzy back. You've got Dom. You
hmm
take that super athletic, super lengthy, super high potential trio of, sorry to leave Nika out, of, I know she's under contract, but this would be my like big three going forward
hmm
is Dom, Jordan, Ezzy, and you figure it all out.
Yeah.
But as you mentioned, with the current three they have, that's a lot. You've got a four, maybe big three, but I'd say a four in Dom. You've got a
hmm
wing in Jordan Horston, and you do have a guard in Nika.
hmm
And who knows? Maybe she's able to ball out in the offseason when she's healthy off surgery,
Yeah.
and kind of reestablish herself. Maybe then she's more. I didn't see too much when she played, unfortunately, and I just don't know how much I can rely on that
hmm
compared to the others with Dom and Jordan and Ezzy. I'm just kind of lumping Ezzy in there, even though
Yeah.
she hasn't resigned. So I don't know. That would be my trio.
I
As
mean,
you
my
mentioned,
prediction, I just was gonna say my prediction, if there was a cleaning of house, I would predict that just based on how they have talked about, Noe specifically or the coaching staff specifically, I would guess that Skylar and NECA are gone. I would assume that, that Ezzy and Gabby, I would not be surprised if they came back. I don't really know how much of their kind of loyalty to the Storm is necessarily just coaching staff. I think that,
Yeah.
I know that Gabby obviously has kept, her loyalty with the Storm because of the way that they have treated her and supported her, through her, dual citizenship, and, through prioritization. So I don't know, just something to think about. Again, not
Yeah,
anything
it's a good
official, just a prediction.
that's a good thought because I wonder if that's more organizational than just staff,
Hmm.
because it's like I'm sure that's, ownership. Like, hey, are you
Yeah, I
willing
think
to
Gabby
wait
has
for a
mentioned the
player?
owners more. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So that's an important thing to, think about as well when we get to that point. Um, we will have to do a lot with the off
Mm.
season. It will not
Hmm.
be an off season
No.
with free agency, with the expansion draft, because again, I have no idea how that's going to go.
Yeah,
Because a bunch of teams are going to be like, "Hey, we don't have anything for you to take. Go
right.
away."
Yeah. No, I
Um,
have no idea.
the entry draft, and then Unrivaled, of course, which seems
Hmm.
seemingly will be bigger and better. Obviously, there's Athletes Unlimited, but yeah, unless you've got anything, buddy, I think that's it. We've kind of
Brain
labored
spilled.
over
No.
the losing streak. We've looked at how kind of, unless it comes with from within, and you're able to get more rebounds as a whole from everybody.
Yeah.
Uh, you're able to play better interior defense from everybody, and you're able to give Skylar more of a break so she's able to some of the other players, not just Skylar, because Gabby's kind of seen a little bit of a drop in offensive production as well. I know you
Hmm.
mentioned Rowan. I don't know if you said it on
Thank you for
camera.
giving me an opportunity to say I sat here adding up all my stats. Gabby's 3-point percentage, she thought she shot 33% from three for the first 20 games of the season, first half of the season. And in these, the second half, these 13 games, she shot 15%. So her 3-point shooting percentage has gone down almost 20%. Thank you for giving me an opportunity. I was like, where am I going to fit that in? So,
Disgusting.
yeah. Good
15.
to know. I mean, but I also was going to mention that I was looking at, I was kind of trying to figure out their 3-point shooting percentage in the league they've only gone down one spot since pre All-Star break.
Hmm.
And when just glancing at it, it does look like NECA has attempted and made more three-pointers in the second half of the season. So again, tying back to your lineup of NECA at the three, you know. Yeah. So that's all. That's all I have.
Hmm. Please, can you imagine they do it in Vancouver? They're like, "Hey, we're in Canada. We're gonna
We're
try
just gonna
stuff."
try it. That would be hilarious.
The extracurriculars for the next two games are there too. It's not like there's a soft like, "Hey, you're in a losing streak. Let's get out of it." You have to deal with the
Hmm.
extracurriculars of Canada
Yeah.
and then Sue's statue unveiling.
Hmm.
Oh, good
And
luck.
and Jordan Canada being injured for the Canada game that she would have played in.
You are terrible.
I know. It's just so
Well, what is
sad.
it? The four Canadian players or whatever that are in the league. I saw a post today. None of them are playing in this game. Um,
No, you're right. Yeah,
like
Kian Nurse, Bridget Carlton. Yeah, yeah, no.
so what they were like, yeah, here's the
They're like
four Canadian
last name
players.
Canada. Yeah.
Fucking you, Jordan Canada. Someone made a point like about the roster mismanagement. I think this was in a Storm Chasers tweet, and Jeff was like, they never should have signed Brianne January and let Jordan
Mm,
Canada leave. And I'm like,
yeah.
no, they shouldn't have. But
Mm-mm.
it's another issue of
Here we
mismanagement.
are.
Um, yeah, sorry, let me pull the schedule back up so I can or just do our outro here. Yeah, no, great to get this done. Unfortunate that we have to basically doom gloom you, but this is the reality of the situation, not only with the losing streak, but also just how this is going for the season. They started out so well. They had disappointing losses for the course of the year, and we're seeing the deficiencies become more of an issue. Again, they're close, but obviously being close doesn't win you standings points. Yeah, the Canada game, August 15th today, 7 o'clock Pacific time. Rowan doesn't know what Pacific time is anymore. Uh,
I'm on the fake time zone. Every time I say I'm on mountain time, people are like, what?
What's a mountain time? Uh, yeah, Storm versus Dream, the number 2 seed in the league on Ion, lovely Ion, great. Um, then Sunday we will see you. I will see you, not Rowan, unfortunately. For the unless you want to fly back to see the statue. Uh,
Sure.
Forever, the Forever Sioux Fan Fest is at noon. The game itself, the Forever Sioux game, is against the Mercury, 19 and 12 Mercury, 3 p.m. start time on Sunday, on local TV. Surprised that's not like on a non-local Como 4/CW Seattle. There is going to be a fan fest at noon. The statue unveiling ceremony, I believe, is supposed to take place from 10 to 11. Media will get to hear from Sue before that. So I gotta wake up at the ass crack of dawn to get to climate pledge at like 8 o'clock. Ugh.
Anything for
Uh,
Sue.
I guess. Unless she, well, I was gonna say she's gonna suit up, but again, they don't need another guard. So, all right, we give you a nice big hefty Storm coffee table to take in. I hope it fills you with hope and joy because certainly there's a lot of that right now. So, till we see you next time, take care of yourselves, be well, do whatever you can to make today a great day. Sign Tiara McCowan.
Hey, Charles.
Hey, Jen.
Hey, were you going to watch the Seattle Storm away games this year?
Away games. Well, Rough and Tumble is the home of Circling Seattle Sports, so I was thinking of coming here if that's okay with you.
I think that makes a lot of sense. See you all here.